in the search for these two young children. Sadly, there is still no good news report. The RCMP held a news conference a couple hours ago to give us an update. Basically, there's not much else to say other than the search for Lily and her brother Jack continues here and around these woods, in these deep woods in the Lansdowne area, just about 20 kilometers south of New Glasgow.
It's literally a month today since 6-year-old Lily Sullivan and her 4-year-old brother Jack went missing in Pictou County, Nova Scotia. After 4 weeks of extensive but fruitless searching, it's important to take stock not of what we don't know, but what we do know. What do we have to go on? In this analysis, we'll examine 8 critical areas to focus on. We'll also look at a crucial strategy that could help locate these children.
I got nightmares in my head, I fear thoughts build up until I can't feel. My mind fills up into a creature, and it haunts me somewhere much deeper. I got nightmares in my head, I fear.
Hello and welcome to True Crime Rocket Science. Now, the last case we looked at that involved 2 missing children was the Laurie Vallow case. And in that case, reviewing the timeline, reviewing texts and GPS data, that provided a breakthrough. The 2 children were found buried in Chad Daybell's plot behind his rural home near Rexburg. Took something like 6 months of reviewing and investigating to find them. In this case, there is no cell phone coverage, so cell phone data, usually a huge source of data, is unavailable to us in this case. I do think the remoteness of the area gave someone the idea that if they did something, it would remain hidden in the obscurity. It would remain unseen in the dense woods of where they were. No one would know, and if no one knew, he or she could get away with it. I don't think they anticipated this case blowing up not just in Canada, but around the world. So, 1 month later, what do we have to go on? Well, instead of cell phone data, there is a secondary resource that might be available and that could provide the crucial breakthrough in this case. We'll deal with that when we get to the final point, number 8. Before we get to that, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do. If you find this analysis worthwhile, bear in mind I don't do live streams, so I do rely on your charity, your generosity. So if you are feeling generous, please do hit the thanks button and let's get started. So 8 critical areas to focus on. Number 1, her children disappeared, not his. In the most basic sense, both her children disappeared, not his. And the mother has since left Daniel with their baby, taking their baby with them. Although she hasn't said anything, Malaya Brooks Murray's actions suggest she's not particularly happy with him. And her blocking him on social media in the middle of an emergency suggests some sort of opprobrium in the middle of this crisis. In other words, a crisis in the middle of a crisis. Since he remains the biological father of their daughter Meadow, her taking herself and Meadow out of the equation in the middle of the search, but more crucially breaking contact, essentially breaking up with him, says something. What exactly does it say? I also think it suggests that she knows something. Well, what does she know? If one of the children disappeared, it might be an accidental scenario, but since both children have disappeared and both are her children and disappeared without a trace, foul play appears to be virtually certain. According to the Canadian press, quote, Martel confirmed that on Monday night the Mounties showed him shirts, a blanket and a water bottle found during the search near Gerlach Road. This is quite early on in the investigation. This wasn't yesterday or over the weekend. But then he said none of the items belongs to either child. He said that Monday he was worried the children may have been abducted, but police have said there's no evidence the children were taken and that investigators are acting under the belief that both kids wandered from their home. I think that belief has been updated, and I think when you are searching for someone who isn't alive, you search in a different way. And we're going to deal with that in this analysis. Number 2, Cindy Murray, the grandmother. Someone else who has maintained her silence is Cindy Murray, Martel's mother, who also lives on the property. Where is she now? Given the fact that Malaya has spoken to the media and Daniel has spoken multiple times, it's odd that she hasn't. Well, she did speak to the media on one occasion, and when she did, she basically just said, we hope we find them, we'll pray. But she claims the police advised her not to talk to the media because it could harm an ongoing investigation. Do you buy that? Because there's nothing wrong with just using the media to ask the public to come forward with tips, with information. Why wouldn't you even do that? So the fact that Daniel's mother has remained silent, what do you think? Is that suspicious? Number 3, disturbed patches of earth. In the Patrick Frazee case and also the Laurie Vallow case, giveaways included disturbed or altered patches of earth. In the Frazee case, a gravel driveway had a crust of burnt material, some of which had been covered over by a thin layer of dirt. They ought to search for burned patches as well as disturbed patches of earth near the mobile home. The trouble is, where you have sawmills and logging, there's disturbed earth literally everywhere. Something else to look into is missing clothing. We know they were wearing boots. Where did the children normally play close to home? Also, what is the last meal they had? Number 4, credit card receipts. What do the family typically spend their money on? And over the last couple of days and weeks and months, what have they been spending their money on? Number 5, renovations. In the background of this image to the right, it appears Daniel has been working on renovations. Buckets of stone suggest he's been making concrete. This reminds me of what Don Wells did for a living. Number 6, Daniel's previous relationship history. Now, I came across a TikToker who found an image of Martel and then assumed that the other children in the picture were his from another relationship. A search seems to suggest otherwise, but we do need clarity on this particular aspect. It's important to find out Martel's relationship history. The fact that the 33-year-old still lives with his mother, however, isn't a good sign. Number 7, thick woods. The likeliest scenario is that the two children are somewhere in the thick woods surrounding the mobile home. In the Casey Anthony case, even though Kaylee was just a quarter of a mile away, and I've actually been right there myself, searchers in their eagerness to search further afield failed to search systematically, failed to search slowly and carefully enough in areas closer to the home, and that led to the search taking months when it could really have been resolved much earlier. Number 8, telematics. If the children were driven anywhere, then I fear the chances of finding them are extremely remote, because the search area then expands exponentially, and no matter how many searches you have, it ends up being too little butter over too much bread. What could potentially assist investigators is looking at vehicle telematics. We saw that in the Barry Morphew case, telematics proved very useful. These don't always rely on GPS signals. In the Alex Murdoch case and the Jennifer Dulos cases, the telematics also provided that additional layer of intel. Now, it does seem as if there are vehicles present, but there are also possibly quad bikes or all-terrain vehicles. I'm not quite sure whether they would have the telematics of modern vehicles, but that is certainly an area to investigate. I'm not going to take it further than that. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you guys next time.